I just remember like the amount of bureaucracy that I had to go through. And that was something I was like, oh man, I hate this. I'm just focused on this one core area of the market. If you spread yourself thin, of course I'm going to beat you in that area because you're trying to serve 5, 10 different ideal customers. You're going to lose every time against the person who focuses on just one. The hard thing when you have like super high standards is you like control some of those like demons. I think it's just like sometimes I am my own worst enemy in the business. At the end of my time at Vidyard, I actually got fired.
Hello, this episode of Misfit Founders is brought to you in partnership with Paddle. Paddle is a payments infrastructure platform for over 4,000 software companies. They manage billing, tax, subscriptions, pricing, retention, and also fraud, so you don't have to. So if you're a SaaS or software founder, check out the link in the description. Might be useful. Now, back to the episode. Whew, what's the time? Apologies for taking way too long. I feel that you came in at 9.
Yes.
Like, I'm ready. I'm like, I'm not. Let me figure out all the cameras and stuff. But luckily, after you, this is all set up. And
Yes.
no one needs to go through this pain like you did.
Just me, huh?
Hey, you wanted to be early, okay? How are you?
I'm good.
Wes, well, let me start by saying that I've been following your content for quite a while. I think I started somewhere in 2018 or 2019.
Awesome.
You had a course on CX.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the first things. Like,
Yeah.
I had nothing before that. I didn't have a book in that sense. And I remember I got asked to create a course on product growth, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. I've been doing this for like 2-3 years. Why not?
Was that your first gig in this product-led?
Yeah, that was
Wow.
one of the first things where it was like, okay, yeah, product growth, let's do it. And what was funny about that is I did that course, and then at the end, I actually felt like I knew way less about the topic than I did, because I kind of just went into it, and then I realized it's like, actually, there's a lot else that I don't know about this topic. And that's actually what kind of inspired the book, because I was like, I gotta do a deep dive. I'm like super passionate about this topic. I want to see like what are those other things that kind of contribute to a product-led business. And I thought it was just onboarding in the beginning, and I was like, oh no, there's so much more to it.
You know, I had no idea that was your first gig.
Yeah. Most people don't know about the CXL one.
Well, I'm proud because
Yeah.
I'm an OG. Okay,
You're
I took
an
your
OG,
first
yeah.
ever course, and then
Yeah.
then I started Googling you, and I saw that you had the book and everything.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with a quick introduction. Maybe mention who Wes Bush is and what is your business, like the elevator pitch of your business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my whole business is helping companies really become product-led. And so, yeah, I am best-selling author of the book on product-led growth. And we've also co-authored product-led onboarding, which is a really important topic for SaaS companies, where it's like how to master onboarding. And so our entire company is really just focused on how to actually help product-led companies go from 6 to 8 figures in their self-serve revenue. So that's kind of our sweet spot, getting that go-to-market motion just set up. And so we just coach companies how to actually do that in their business.
What's your company actually called? Is it Product-Led Growth?
ProductLed.com.
ProductLed.com. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you start?
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
It's been a while.
Was 7 years ago when you kickstarted this, was product-led a trendy keyword like it is today?
No, nobody knew about it. And yeah, so it was about 2 or 3 years into the business where I heard about the term. And at that time, I was working with like B2B SaaS companies doing consulting, helping them basically grow their go-to-market engines. And so I was doing like paid ads. I was getting people to sign up for their free trials. And then I was like digging into how to actually get those free trials to value and to upgrade on their own. And so, yeah, that was all pre-product-led. And then when it came out from OpenView, Blake Bartlett, he was the one who kind of coined the term at OpenView. And so that was really like, it clicked for me. Like when you hear something and it clicks, I was like, there's something there. Like I haven't had a word, like a new word in a vocabulary, like click like that. And you feel it and you're like, aha, like it was its own aha moment for me. And I was like, wow, I could definitely like this makes sense. This is what I'm doing. It gave clarity. Yeah.
And talk to me a bit about your background. How did you start in your professional career in the sense?
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
age?
Yeah, I know I'm young.
And how? Yeah, you look very young.
Yeah.
And you've had the business, a successful, might I say, business for 7 years now. So
Yeah.
tell me a bit about how before the business.
Yeah, so before the business, I was doing like basically demand generation at B2B SaaS companies. So first I worked at Exonify, which was like an e-learning kind of company, basically just getting leads for their sales team. And then what I learned there was, you know what, it doesn't, if you're in marketing, one of the most underrated important things is you have to love the people you're serving. You have to love kind of what you're kind of leaning into and promoting. And so although it was a great company, great leadership and everything else, I was like, I really love marketers and I really love marketing. So let's work at a place that really goes after those kind of like that ICP. And so I ended up working at Vidyard. And so that was kind of my first entry into like, oh yeah, this fits. I get excited about like promoting to these video marketers and stuff like that. So that was a ton of fun. I was doing kind of demand gen, helping them grow. I think that year they went from like 50 to 120. It was just like this crazy kind of growth ride. But then, yeah, when I was there, we launched this free trial and it just wasn't that successful. Like it just didn't convert. People didn't upgrade or anything else like that because we basically just did the rookie mistakes of like, what is everybody else doing? Oh, they got a 14-day free trial. Let's do it. And then when it came to like onboarding, it's like we just didn't bother doing anything like that. We just dropped people in the dashboard, and then the only people that converted were the ones like sales actually proactively reached out to. And so that didn't work. And then luckily at the end of my journey there, we launched this like freemium model, and that took off, which was great. Like it was this simple Chrome extension, people could install it. I've used like something like Loom as well. It's like very similar in that context. It just has more analytics on those videos. And so, yeah, 100,000 plus people used it first 12 months. And like for me, that was like, you know what, there's a sales-led way of like, you know, promoting content, getting people to download white papers. And I was like, you know what, I don't buy software that way. This is definitely the future. Like, let's show people the product and let's do it. And so, yeah, at the end of my time at Vidyard, I actually got fired.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
After you, because I suppose you put a lot of energy and you help them convert to ProductLed, right? So what happened?
Yeah, like I don't know like all the answers from what they tell me, but what I think kind of went on is like for myself, like whenever I get like obsessed about something, like I was all in on that freemium product. Like that's what I spend my time. Yet my job is demand generation and like the more traditional approach. So like I didn't focus as much probably on that, whereas I focused more on like, oh yeah, this new free product could be like a huge thing. So I think I just didn't put my time probably where they wanted it. But yeah, at that time I was like so happy because I think like as a founder, you have to decide like if this is something you want to do, which right from the beginning, like even like 5 years before that, I was like, I want to have my own business. I want to do this. I knew this is the right time. And then when I got fired, I was like, I remembered in university, there's this kind of wise guy. He had this like accelerator center. He was like, it's actually less risky working for yourself than for somebody else. And I was like, interesting. It hit me again when I got fired. I was like, true. Because like as a business owner, it's like, how many customers do I have? I was like, I have a lot now. It's like, it is way less risky. So yeah, I decided like, let's lean into this. And I started just doing consulting for these B2B software companies. And so that was really just leaning into that skill set, refining it. And then I kind of stumbled upon like those first 2-3 years was like just seeing what really drives these B2B SaaS companies and grows them. And then, yeah, ProductLed kind of came out of that as like, that is the best way to grow these companies.
And so you said you wanted prior to that to become a founder, to start your own business.
Yeah.
Was this quote or this saying that stuck with you, the fact that it's less risky to have your own business, the sole reason that you were so determined to start your own business? Or was it also some, was it that Vidyard really annoyed you? It's like, never again, I'm going to build my own business. Or was it something else? So was there anything else that contributed to you taking the step?
There's definitely a few things. So like the last like few months, even at Vidyard, I was advocating hard to work remote. And at that time, it's changed, but like at that time, it was like, it's only the leadership that can work remote. Just like double standard, whatever.
When was this? What year was this?
Oh man, that was 20, I think 16.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
true. Everyone was butts in seats at that point.
exactly. And so I was like, man, I want to work remote. So like that was one of the other big drivers of like, if I have my own business, I want to work remote. But then the other thing was like, I just kind of, I think we're making any big decision, like you fast forward your life and think about like, how would this decision impact me at 30 or 40 or 50? And so I just kind of saw, I was like, you know what, it's never going to be easier. Like right now, I don't have kids, don't have family or anything like that to kind of worry about. It's like I have enough saved up for a year. If, you know, that this doesn't work, the worst case scenario is I have like a very high skill in demand job at one of these companies. And it's like, I know I can get jobs. I had job offers the next week. So it was like, it really felt like I could double my salary if I wanted to sell my soul.
Well, you know, and the other thing is, yes, you worked for, I would say, a reputable brand.
Vidyard's awesome.
Vidyard.
I speak highly of them. For sure.
But the other thing is, you've built a brand for yourself now.
Yeah.
I do feel like, I don't know, maybe is my naive thinking. I don't know if you think the same, but I do feel that once you're in this position, you're good. As in, there's never going to be a doubt if you go into the job hunting market that you're not going to be hunted in a sense, right? I mean, you built a name for yourself, so I probably know at least 10 companies that if I tell them, well, Wes Bush is available for employment, that will jump to the occasion.
Definitely. Yeah, it creates that like career optionality of like, what are your terms and like, what are some specific things you want to live by? And so I think like just having those values of like, oh yeah, this is what I want, this is what I'm worth, kind of like sacrifice time and energy for to like actually make this work. Because at the beginning of the business, like, you know, it's not easy. That's like where you put in the most sacrifice.
But from what I hear, never again the employment for you.
No.
It looks like you're very determined not to get on the employment ladder anymore.
Yeah. The only thing is if it was like a partnership or something like that could like 10x, or you grow together with like great people that like you're on the same team and like founding something together, like absolutely I'm for that. But starting like working for somebody else in that capacity, no.
Are you a solo founder?
Yes.
How are you finding that? And by the way, is ProductLed your first business?
Yep.
First ever business?
Yeah, first business.
Oof, okay, you have stories there.
Yeah, well, I mean, as the first business, it's many businesses, right?
Yeah, true. And also to jump head first as a solo entrepreneur, solo founder.
Oh yeah, it's kind of dumb in that sense, but
what was the first hurdle that you encountered? Once you said, Vidyard, I'm out of here. Was it Vidyard, you said?
Yeah.
Vidyard. I always confuse Vimeo, Vidyard, vidIQ, and so on.
I know, there's so many different kinds.
So Vidyard, so once you said, okay, thank you for letting me know in the severage package.
Yes.
And you started the business. What was your first hurdle, if you can remember?
Yeah. No, I remember very vividly. So the first hurdle was like, what's next, right? What is going to be that next business? Now I had been kind of like playing around with this idea of like a SEO A/B testing tool. So like if you search for a specific keyword, it just kind of changes the meta descriptions and everything, so you could optimize for click-through rates. So I was like, okay, I think this is a great business idea. I want to go for it. I applied to this like one of the top accelerators in Canada, and I got in. And I was like, okay, let's like prove this out and try and build out this software as a service business. And so I went down that journey. I remember just like doing the market research, doing all the kind of like research for that. And I remember just being like, this really feels like pushing a rock up a hill. And during that time, like the first 3 to 6 months, I just got asked like, hey, Wes, like you doing like consulting? I'm like, no, I'm not pursuing that. I'm working on this thing. and these opportunities kept coming. And then I was like, well, what the heck? This thing isn't making any money. Let me just like, this looks like a really fun kind of B2B SaaS company that could help. And so I started working with some of these founders at smaller companies. And I was like, damn, I love this. And then like fast forward 6-8 months into it, I was like, okay, it's like, 10K a month. And I hadn't tried to even get to this point. I was like, interesting. And this like other company, I was like, I was focusing on it and it just wasn't giving me life. You have some businesses where it's like, it just feels like it's, I don't know, sucking the life out of you. So like that was that business. And then I had this like life-giving consulting thing that wasn't just like chump change either. It was like, it was enough to live off of for sure. And so then I was like, what if I actually tried? Like, what would that look like?
Were you skeptical at the beginning? You were like, well, SaaS is
Yeah.
what's trendy, and I think I might be able to make this work if I pull enough. But there's this opportunity here. Should I take it? Should I not? What was going through your mind when you were processing whether to make the pivot?
Yeah. I think the big thing, I was like, I want to optimize like my 20s for learning. And so that
Right.
was like, how could I learn faster? And so what I didn't know, which I'm happy I know now, is I read this book by, he's the founder of Strategic Coach. It's called like Unique Ability. And it's more like a workbook, but like you go through this like really intense activities and then you find out like what are like your 3 or 4 good things that you're great at. And one of mine's like this weird skill of synthesis. And so like I can like find patterns, great. Like that's what I'm great at. And so it's like consulting and helping many companies with the same problem. I can do that better than many people because it's like that's truly what I'm built for. I can do that and then create like the content side of things of like how to actually boil it down and simplify it. So I just kind of leaned into like what are my strengths there, what gives me the most energy. Mind you, that first year I didn't always do that. I focused on what is gonna like drive revenue, and I focused on that probably too much. I followed the money, which is great. I think every founder should learn that skill of like what are people willing to pay for. You have to do that, but then you also.
So what were those? Sorry to interrupt. What were some of those highly paid jobs that you were doing for customers in the early days?
Yeah. So the one that like paid the most, but was also the most pain, was like working for this insurance company, and we were like rejigging their entire like marketing engine. So like everything from the website to like their advertising, and I just remember like the amount of bureaucracy that I had to go through, and that was something I was like, oh man, I hate this. And like by the time we actually published the website, I remember just saying like, I hate this website. Like we created something great together and then it ends up going through approvals and everybody else. And I was like, wow, this just lost its life. So yeah, I think it was just like, I really just prioritized, like it was a great connection with the CEO, but by the time it got through the production line, it was just not the best. So I think in that scenario, I learned like, who are the companies you want to work for and who are the ones where you're going to get like the most energy from and best results at the end of the day. Like I know that website that got launched, it's not going to get them like the results they probably want, but they just didn't know better that like if you keep changing things, it just leads to bad results.
And I think that you have something there that it's a mix of, because I know, like, one, I've been hating consultancy and services for such a long time because I'm thinking, well, I don't want to deal with certain type of customers, like this category of industries and so on.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do this kind of jobs. So I think, because just the other day, I've published one episode with someone from the Atlassian ecosystem that started a software business, was forced to go into services because of revenue, because they ran out of runway to build the software, went into services just because of the need.
Right.
And I was on this side of the fence for quite a while. I said, I really hope that I can continue to build my software when we were building with Nikki and not have to do services in order to sustain ourselves. But then as I evolved, maybe matured, maybe conversate with a lot of founders like yourself that love helping others with services, I realized you just have to find that thing that you're passionate about, and you can
Totally.
talk about for days on end,
Yeah,
and mix it with the right type of customers that you have chemistry with.
totally.
If you manage to do that, service seems to be an awesome business to be in.
Yeah. And in my upcoming book, one of the hardest parts I found is like, I call it like synergy is a precursor to scale. And like, how do you create synergy? I think it's like this beautiful Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams, but
I've noticed.
they're amazing things. So on like one end, it's like your company, like what do you do best? And as a founder, it's like your company is you, let's face it, like in the early
Yeah.
days. So it's like, what do you personally do best? And what are you best at doing? And then like the second kind of big piece you got to find alignment around is like your customer, like who are you able to serve best? Who like loves you? Who do you know and like love as a customer? And so like you have like that kind of second bucket. And then the third one is like whether it's product or services, it's like how can you provide the most value? And so you have these three things: product, customer, company. And whether you're trying to find PMF or trying to scale your business, it's like I believe it's like finding that synergy between those three, and that's actually what drives the really great results. And so yeah, but it takes years. Like that first year of my business was like totally like, okay, the company side. And then like the second year was like, okay, let's follow the energy. Let's lean into like, who are the best customers, best problems I love solving. And then like third, it's like leaning into product-led growth is like, okay, this is the product and service. Like I want to like stand behind, and like this also provides the most value to them. So yeah.
And who was in those first couple of years while you were scratching your head on how to grow this thing that you figure out you love?
Yeah.
What was your inspiration? What were your sources of knowledge? Because the reason why I'm asking for context, I know so many people that start services, software,
Yeah.
because they love this topic so much.
Totally.
Like, for example, ProductLed. And they wind up going back to working for someone in this topic that they love
totally.
because they struggle building a business model that can sustain and grow. So I'm curious, what helped you in the first years? Because you could have very well said, you know, actually, I'm not getting enough customers, this, that. Let me just go back to having a job, especially the fact that you talk about what your expertise is product-led, and you weren't building a product, right? To say that's where growth comes from. You're a service business, right?
And it's like only until like this year and upcoming next year where it's like we're actually gonna have like a kick-ass free version of like eating your own dog food, which is like we've had other free models, but it's different how you implement it in a content education business versus SaaS. So yeah, that's a heavy learning curve. So to get to your question of like what kept me going during those years was basically like control. Like I want to really kind of lean into this business and like have this big vision of like where I want it to go. And even right now, like if I got offers, I've had offers to like sell the business and all that stuff. And it's like, no, like the business vision is so big. Like this is a core kind of media asset. Then there's gonna be the coaching. Then there's gonna be like the advising portfolio of companies. And it's like long-term vision. This is like a huge like part of like the journey. And right now it might not like completely make sense, but fast forward 10, 20 years, it's going to be absolutely the best fucking decision I've ever made because it's a part of that big vision. So I think like if you don't have one, it's easy to get swayed. Whereas like, okay, the winds are hard in some seasons of any business. And it's like, I always think about that too. Like some of my friends are just like, okay, they just did the job thing. And it's like, you know what? They might have made more or something like earlier. And it's like, well, I think there's this one quote I love. I forget which billionaire said it. He's like, in the early days of your business, like you're grossly underpaid, so that in the later days of your career, you're grossly overpaid. And I thought a lot about that. I was like, oh yeah, it's so true.
That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what are some of the basically some of the avenues where you got your knowledge on how to build a services business? Was it just winging it and figuring out on your own, or did you had any mentors, help, courses, or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for like education. Like I spend like hundreds of thousands on like just that because it's at the end of the day, like I think especially as a first-time founder, you got to realize it's like you're the bottleneck, like always.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because why is your business not like double the size? It's like, it's a skill deficiency. You just don't know how. You're not doing the right things, clearly. So yeah, I always treat it like that. It's like an equation. Like, okay, it's X plus Y. What is the Y? And I want Z. So like, this is the missing link. So yeah, throughout the journey, I've had tons. I think early days, even Pep from CXL, he was a great like, kind of inspiration for like being a leader in like conversion rate optimization as a field. Joanna Weeb from Copy Hackers, she was a great example of like how to really kind of create a brands around like just copywriting and stuff. And so it definitely had like different perspectives of like people of how they've done it, and became friends with them and stuff like that too, which is great. But then, yeah, I've also had other kind of mentors like on the coaching side, like Dan Martell as well, like how to actually like scale a coaching business. And so, yeah, I think like the cool thing about mentors and mentorship is like you just find who's the right mentor for you at the right season, and like what is the right problem you're trying to solve. Because, yeah, the caliber of mentor changes as you kind of scale too.
100%, and that's one of the things that I've noticed. I've always thought, or if I have a mentor, that person is going to be my buddy for life. But fundamentally, that's not the expectations that we should set for ourselves as mentees or mentors.
Totally.
Because people go through various stages of their career. And I've mentored people that I was having chats every single month that now they're at a different stage. And we barely speak. You know, we kind of keep in touch, want to make sure the person's all good and stuff, but they don't need me anymore. So
Totally.
you mentioned you received propositions to sell. I want to dig into that.
Totally.
What type of companies approach you with that? Because you know, I see what you're doing as a like this conglomerate of media content, like you said, services, and it's a powerful brand that you built. What are some of the type of companies that are like, you know, this would be a big asset to our organization?
Yeah, specifically like a B2B SaaS company that is like helping or enabling companies to be more product-led. So yeah, those are kind of the companies that would look to acquire a company like ours, where they're like, oh yeah, it's another like media asset that can stand on its own. But here's the thing, like when I look at like the companies that do get acquired that are media, like they have a very, in many cases, unstable business model where it's just like media or sponsorship. So if like that's your only revenue source and you get an offer for like, hey, we want to purchase your company at like a reasonable price and go for it, it's very tempting because they're like, well, yeah, getting sponsorships and media is hard as a business. And so I always wanted to create a business where it's like we make majority, at least 80% plus of our revenue from the actual like customers we're serving, because like that is who I want my customers to be, not like selling your data or promoting somebody else's company. And so that's really kind of the big decision we had. We used to take like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of like sponsorships every year, and it's like, yeah, we can still do some of that, but I want the main focus to be on the actual customers we're serving and providing that value, because like that's a different value equation to solve for in your business. You're not solving for like the amount of eyeballs. You're solving for like how much value are we providing you? Like, did we actually help you like 2x your self-serve revenue? If so, like great, you're gonna continue paying us because you want to continue growing, right? Like it's a natural kind of relationship versus just like, yeah, I sold you data. Is that okay?
And
no,
let's be honest and let's face it, you also hate working for someone else. So
yeah, maybe
probably it's going to be difficult for you to take
if it's
that
the customers
step.
I love, then no, I love working for them. But yeah.
And how big is your team today?
Yeah, so right now it's just 5 people.
5 people.
Yeah.
And that has been constant throughout the last years, or
No.
were you solopreneur for a long time and then you started hiring people? What was the journey like?
Yeah, so we actually I think at our peak we were like 12 people.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and COVID actually the business exploded. So it almost got killed and then it exploded. It's just like a really weird whiplash.
As in almost got killed at the beginning of the pandemic and then exploded.
Well, our entire business was like all these workshops in person. And so we would deliver these workshops, and so like basically like March, like pipeline, boom, like gone. And then I was like, wow, like what are we gonna do as a business? Because like that was our whole thing. And then I was like, well, let's try like an online cohort. So we did the first one just as a kind of test, had like really great results. And then by like the second or third one, I think like the cohort was making like 350K per cohort. So I was like, there's something here. Like let's double this. Let's like double up the frequency of these cohorts. Let's continue like scaling this up. And so at that stage, we were just like, let's spend every dollar we make to just grow this business as fast as possible while we have that. And so yeah, what I didn't realize is kind of like product market fit in that sense. Just kind of like really focused on that. So yeah, we scaled up the team, and then we ended up having to like right size the team, where we're like, you know what, we can actually do just as much if we focus like on the intentional stuff that is actually driving results, and get the same results with probably like half the team. So because I don't know, you probably know this as a founder, but like there's that magical number of like 7, where it's like, if it gets over that, it's like a different layer and different team, and it's like every individual person makes a new team. So yeah, I try and just do less versus more now.
You know what? I've never actually thought of the number 7, but as soon as you said it, I think it was around that level where we were confident, completely flat.
Yeah.
And we actually, when we sold, there was 12 of us,
Awesome.
me and my co-founder, and then 10 people in our team. And after 7, 8, I was already starting to scratch my head thinking, do I need to start putting certain structure, restructuring the team, making smaller groups, maybe having someone managing, and it's always been daunting to me to have a company that scales vertically as well, because I hate that. I hate layers and layers of management, because that slows things down significantly. Now, the other thing that slows things down that people don't realize significantly is more people in the team that collaborate with each other. If you have individual contributors that are self-contained, then probably you can constantly scale and the output will scale. But that is impossible, because even when that happens, there's still you that needs to be spread across everyone. But having decision chains and so on complicates things significantly.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable now at 5?
Yeah, I mean, for the time being, for sure. Like we still have like contractors as well, where we use them for like coaching engagements. And so like that's one of the other scalable kind of parts of our business, where it's like we could scale, 2, 3x the business, but we would just hire more contractors as far as like product-led coaches to implement the system.
And I'm curious, genuine question, because I don't know, who knows, maybe one day I'll decide, you know what, I want to start a teaching business.
Right.
For the teaching side, what kind of roles do you have in the team? Like, did you hire individual people to take on individual traits and responsibilities, or do you do all the teaching stuff and everyone else handles the other components of your business?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say it's that separate from everything. Like it's very integrated, like in terms of how we do it. So this is a pretty common like structure, I would say, for a small kind of like coaching business, where you're creating a lot of content. Like content is your main channel usually in a coaching business, because you got to like build a lot of trust first with people. So yeah, how it works, like you have like your coaching calls, those are recorded always, and sometimes we have like our head of content most times on them, and she's trying to find like all the specific insights, ideas, common questions actually that like the founders ask from your ICP, and that then gets turned into like specific content. So like whether it's we don't share like obviously the confidential information from that client or anything like that, but that's our source. So everything starts from what is actually providing value to the client, and then that gets repackaged first off in like LinkedIn, where it's like, okay, that's our test grounds. We test everything on LinkedIn first, since it's easy, it's cheap. And then it's like, okay, if something hits home, that becomes like, whether it's a YouTube short, Instagram reel, or anything else like that, it becomes like a more intense kind of content asset. So like that's when we go through that kind of process. So yeah, in order to support that, you need like a really good like video editor. You need definitely like someone on the team to like handle all like the admin tasks and everything else. And I think like any founder should just have an EA in general to just get a lot of the mundane kind of tasks off your plate as well, and make sure you don't have to do your email and calendar kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking. I think I'm too much in my brain about that. Kind of like having a personal assistant
Yeah.
type of role, because I've always hired specialists,
Yeah.
and if it's daunting to me to have someone, because I'm like, what if I don't have enough work for them to do in
Yeah.
order to
Even if you
take that?
didn't, it wouldn't be a problem. Like if booking this hotel took me like no time at all.
Right.
Because I was just like, oh yeah, I know a friend, he's staying at this hotel in the SaaS space. I'm like, absolutely, like this is close by, like book it. And it's just like it saves so much extra time on your plate as well.
Yeah. I do have moments where I'm like, oh man, I'm doing so much admin
Yeah.
stuff for myself.
And like,
Like,
what's your hourly rate? And it's like,
yeah,
oh, you
true.
could easily get somebody with like 10, $20 an hour to do that.
Yeah.
That's low skill kind of item.
Interesting question. Why do you write books? You're about to write your second book, right?
Yes.
Or publish. Is it already written?
Yeah, it's like, it's actually live on our website.
Oh, it is. You
Right.
published it.
Not quite. So our whole business is about like giving a free product away and like testing it. So like before you put something to print, I want to know it really works like for that free model. And so we're testing it right now. And the traction actually been really, really good because like this book is way different than the other ones in the sense that our entire process, like for our coaching program and everything else, this is like back to that synergy, like that third kind of component, like our product and service. What I found is like the only real way to scale a consulting or a services business like this, you have to have a really rock solid system, and it has to be like replicated to create those results. And so, yeah, we kind of like went through that whole process of like really refining it. We're testing it out right now, and then yeah, it's going to launch early 2024. So that's kind of the long story of it. But
Is this your second book?
yeah, second one I'm writing fully end to end.
Okay. So why do you do it?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the first one, and then this
Yeah.
will kind of add up to the other one while I'm continually doing this. So the first book, after I did that course at CXL, what ended up happening, I felt like I really don't know this topic as well as I thought I did. And so then I was like, I want to learn more about this topic. And it was funny how it kind of came about. I was at this conference in Bangkok, and somebody was like, yeah, I had this mastermind today. I want to write a book. And I was like, huh, I don't know if it's just because I had one or two drinks or whatever, but I'm like, that's an amazing idea. And it finally clicked. That's like, I never thought about that, but being surrounded by people who were like, yeah, I'm writing a book was just perfect because like, that's how I was like, oh yeah. And then we're like chatting. I'm like, yeah, okay, 6 months. That sounds realistic. Let's do it. And so, yeah, I did it, I think like 7 months. And that was kind of the first book. But the reason why is like, I wanted to really dive deep into a specific topic. So back to like, I think I initially when I answered like, why am I consistently working on this on my own? I mentioned like control, but I think the other thing is like, I'm genuinely curious about this topic. Like I genuinely care about it and I want to dive deeper into it. So I'm a bit obsessive in that way. And then I think this book, this next one is like, I want to, before I even get to like building more of a portfolio of product companies, I want to know like the system we're using, I could have a 95% success rate of helping these companies scale their self-serve revenue and get like really, really great results on that end. So I want to have the most successful like coaching program in the world when it comes to like helping product companies like really win. And so the book is really just how do I synthesize this? How do I simplify it? And just my main method, I'm like, I have all these ideas, I can talk them out and everything else, but nothing really helps me simplify and clarify as writing. And so,
Right.
yeah, having that like writing practice every day, it's huge.
So it's mainly a way for you to structure your craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it make money? Did you consider your first book as a significant source of revenue? I know it's a bestseller as well.
Yeah.
Was that a thing, or you don't even think or care about what type of revenue it will bring you?
Yeah, no, I honestly, like when it comes to the book and its revenue, like I can share numbers and stuff like that. I'm fine with that, but it's about like 6 to 7K per month. So
Okay,
that's
not
like,
bad.
it's not nothing, but it's like, it's definitely something.
Still today,
yeah.
which is when was the book that you
4 years ago.
4 years ago,
Yeah,
and you're
for the
still
first-
making that
Yeah.
per month.
Totally.
Okay.
So like it's very
not bad.
consistent, which shows like people are definitely referring it out to other people. It still ranks really well. I mean, if you search product-led growth, we're number one for some of those things. And so I think like that's a part of it. People are definitely curious about that specific way. But the way to look at a book is like you don't directly monetize a book. If you looked at like the amount of effort for that amount, it's like, well, that's well, I mean, that first book was not as much effort. This upcoming one, holy, yeah, that is a lot more effort. Like the caliber I'm going for this one is different. But yeah, you monetize in different ways. Like everybody who joined our program, for the most part, we'd ask them like, how do you hear about this program? They're like, oh, I read the book. And I liked the perspectives. I liked like actually implementing in my business. I saw some quick wins. And so I think with any kind of, if you're thinking for yourself, like a knowledge or like coaching kind of type of business, having a book is a really great positioning tool. This is like, who's the expert on the topic? Person who wrote the book on it, of course. And so that was my kind of like inkling when I was like, okay, I want to write a book. And the reason I did it so fast is because I knew somebody else who's writing a book on product-led growth. It's like, I'm going to be fucking first. There's no fucking way I put in all this effort.
Now I understand your
competitive.
determination.
I'm going to win. And still to this day, they haven't even wrote the book. So there's a lot of people you meet along your journey of like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book. Even the person I met in Bangkok who did it, like she finally did it, but it was like 2 years later. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah. A lot of people don't keep their kind of like initial timeline on some of these things. So I was like, no, I'm doing it.
Well, you're definitely motivating me now to, excuse my language, get off my ass and write a book, because I do want to put together a lot of these stories that I document through the podcast into a book, like a Misfit Founders book.
Yeah.
And that's motivating. You know what's more motivating than you basically getting determined to write the book as quick as possible?
Yeah.
Your competitor not writing it at all.
Yeah.
I feel that's, and this is why with Misfit Founders, that's one of the things that I've gotten the most feedback. It's not the success stories that incentivize people and give them relatability and help them take action. It's more the challenges and the fuck ups, in a sense, that oh, I relate to that. I'm in the same situation. Well, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. I want to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah, and I think what helped, actually my time at Vidyard, when I first got into that business, one of the, I think he was the CEO, Steve Johnson at that time, but he was like talking about like waves in a business and like waves in a market. It's like video marketing was a wave, and it was like cresting when Vidyard was like growing at its fastest. And so I was already privy to the idea that things move in waves. And so when it comes to like right now, we're in like the AI wave. And it's like, if you're an AI business, it's hot. Like it's not going to stay like that forever, but you need to capitalize on that as soon as possible. And there is truly like timing matters, and when you do it, and sometimes that first mover advantage, especially when it comes to like content positioning, absolutely it does matter. I think in other things, like when you talk about like being the first mover in your specific SaaS or vertical or something like that, sometimes it actually doesn't matter as much as you think it does. But when it comes to positioning, absolutely, it matters a ton.
There's effort in writing the book. You did mention that your first book was easier, which is an interesting view, because I always thought that your first book is the hardest to write.
Yeah.
But I think I understand why. What's your second book called?
So yeah, the second one well, there was one kind of like we co-wrote as well, product-led onboarding, but then this one is right now it's called product-led scale, but it's probably just going to be product-led. I don't know. That's the hardest part of writing the book, to be honest.
The title.
The title.
How you
for
position
this one,
it,
and the subtitle. Like for the first one, the title was easy, product-led growth. But then I spent about, I kid you not, like a month on that subtitle. I was like, how to build a product that sells itself.
That's hard, yeah.
Is provocative, and it's like, does this live up to it? And I was like, okay, yeah, some people are gonna rub the wrong way. They're gonna see the wrong like perspective of like, oh, this is anti-sales and stuff like that. But then it has to kind of be controversial in some ways, my perspective at least, to really hook people and be like, yeah, I want to like read that. That sounds like interesting. I want to learn something new. So yeah, that's the hard part.
Well, in a sense, I understand what you're saying with writing a book. If you have a lot of knowledge to share, I think probably maybe the challenging part is, apart from how do you tagline it to
Yeah.
for people to have that aha moment, is also structuring your thoughts in a book, in a book's structure. But for me, it's always been daunting how you market it. How do you put it out there and make people aware of it? Because when you launched your book, how big was your audience?
I think we had 5 to 10K subscribers. So that was kind of like on the email fronts, what we had to work with the list. I think I had built a wait list of 1 or 2,000 people for the book. They were like really engaged. Like we had an awesome open rates. I think it was like 60, 70%, which is great. So I mean, the equivalent of like probably double that list size for most companies if you have a bigger list. And then the social media reach, I think like LinkedIn, at that time, nobody was really posting on LinkedIn like about product-led growth. So I had really good distribution there. But honestly, it wasn't that much. I only had like a couple thousand on like, I think Twitter, LinkedIn as well. Like I did not have much.
And do you feel like the book's popularity has grown through the years as you got more popular as the product-led guy, the way I call you?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's like I think that book has just kind of grown organically. And what's actually really cool now is like a lot of founders of product-led companies, they use whether it's like the product-led growth book or product-led onboarding as part of their onboarding for their employees. They're like, hey, listen, we're like a product-led company, read this. You'll understand us a bit better. And it's been really cool to kind of see the different uses of it where I'm like, really? That's how you're using my book? That's awesome. Because it's good high-level overview of like what it looks like in an actual business and how to think through some things differently. So yeah, I think that definitely contributes to that kind of popularity.
That makes sense. I'm gonna shift gears a bit here. How old are you?
29.
29.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why, I might be wrong, but you seem like the type of person that is obsessed about what they do professionally
Oh, totally.
and invests a lot of their time in that. Do you have any type of work-life balance, or because I am like that.
Yeah.
I have my partner, I have a couple of doggies.
Yeah.
I try to spend as much time with them doing stuff, but a large portion of my time is geeking on various topics that I'm interested in professionally online. How's your setup at this stage at 29 years old?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. It's like the main thing is definitely the work. Because I do get like a ton of satisfaction from that. So like, yeah, I've actually upped it over the years. Like this past month or two, actually since August, when I went to Australia to write this book, and we, my partner and I, we came and we were like on the wrong time zone. So like we were starting to wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning because of the jet lag. Then I was like, damn, I like this. Like I got like 3-4 hours of work done before the light kind of came up. And so actually before I was like probably doing like 8-10 hours like a day. And now I'm doing like 12 or sometimes 14. It was like a really great day. So yeah, like I'm hardcore like work. But when it comes to like the play side, it's like I also have that mode. Like I have one mode, and that is like I want to fucking master whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so like I really got into pickleball. That was my like little addiction.
What is pickleball?
Oh man, you don't know what pickleball
I
is?
need to Google that.
So it's like if tennis and ping pong married, had a baby, it would be like, yeah, pickleball.
Pickleball.
So yeah, smaller
Okay.
ball than actually it's about the same size as a tennis ball, but it's like a wiffle kind of ball. So it's got holes in it. But yeah, I was just like, I'm obsessed. I got to like the point where I'm like semi kind of like competitive league and stuff like that. And then I kind of like tune out of it. I'm like, you know what? That's good. My main goal is the business. I've reached a certain amount of mastery where I know I got like the 80%, 90% of that like upwards journey. And then like, I think what I realized is like, I'm addicted to progress. Like if I'm not making progress, I'm not happy. And so when I reach that in like a sport or something like that, I'm like, it's good enough. But in my business, I'm like, no, I'm going to go the full length because I know to get from the 80 to like 100% proficiency in something, I'm like, oh no, nobody's going to do that because that's hard. And so I think just knowing like if it's for play, like I still want to be great at it and I still want to master it, but I don't have that same like, let's join the Olympic League of pickleball. It's like, who cares?
Do you think that is
Yeah.
because I've always wondered this because I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
When it comes to the professional world, like I put 110%. When it's hobbies and stuff, I try to master it and obsess about it a bit, but I
Yeah.
don't have that insane drive. And I've always thought, why is that? Do you reckon that's because of higher stakes or is it something else? What do you reckon that is from?
Well, I think it's like in business, you're going to get more out of it whenever you go to that level. And whenever it comes to sports or something play, like for instance, like in my city, it's like there's now only so many people that are that good. Like finding playing times and like playing at that level, it's like I basically have to do tournaments now to get great people that it's a super competitive game. And so it's just like there's a lot less like benefit, I guess, to kind of go to that level. And then there's a lot more kind of time as well, where it's like, okay, now this is taken away from my work and stuff like that too. So I don't think it gives you as much joy. And where it's like, what pain are you willing to kind of put up with? And it's like on the business side, it's like, of course, like if it's another like 2 years to really like get to from like 80% to 90%, like with these like results for companies, it's like, I'm willing to do that because like the reward is so great. Like there's only going to be like maybe one company that's like so awesome at like getting companies to this level with this track record. And I'm going to be that company. And it's like, we're going to be known for helping all these companies. So it's like the upside is exponential when you go to that level. It's just like Olympics. It's like, if you really are going to go to the top level, like you're going to get the most benefit, especially if you're first.
Yeah.
Even if you're third, it's like, yeah, it's not quite the same. So yeah, the upside is there.
So the upside, when I asked whether is higher stakes for me is
Yeah.
like the upside, the wins can be a lot bigger, but also the losing is super daunting.
Totally.
Is that the same, or is it for you when you think about your professional career and so on? Is well, the upside is great. If things don't work out, it's not such. Or do you find that daunting as well? Like, if things don't work out, where am I going to be?
Yeah, no, I don't think too much on the like downside of like, oh yeah, like if things don't work out on this level, I just always kind of keep the eyes on like, okay, this is the vision. Am I feeling like I'm making progress towards that? And so, yeah, I'm more motivated by that. And I don't focus like a ton on like, what is the competition doing? Because I'm like, you know what? I have a different ideal customer. I have a different like, this is a huge market.
Yeah.
And I'm going to own and I'm going to dominate this piece. If you try and mess with me, like I'm going to win in this area because I'm actually not trying to be cocky. It's like I'm just focused on this one core area of the market. If you spread yourself thin, of course I'm going to beat you in that area because you're trying to serve 5, 10 different ideal customers. And you're going to lose every time against the person who focuses on just one. So I just like that focus.
You're so competitive. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm digging here.
Do it, man.
You must have something that scares you in the entrepreneur, founder, professional world. What is it? What is that one thing? If you'd have to think hard, it seems like you're quite a confident professional, and you feel like you're going on stable ground, which is great. But you must have some demons. And I'm curious, what are at least one of those things that sometimes keep you up at night, let's say?
Yeah, no, I think the hard thing when you have like super high standards is you like control. Back to even the first reason of like why I wanted to like start the business. I wanted like options. I wanted to have location freedom and all these other things. And so when it comes to like, yeah, some of those like demons, I think it's just like sometimes I am my own worst enemy in the business where it's like, no, I want to like hold on to that because I want to keep like the standards super high. And so letting go of the vine is definitely the harder part. And so I think back to the scary part of what I don't want in like the next 5-10 years is like the business to be where it is today, or the business to be solely dependent on me. And so what I'm trying to really create with this new book and this IP is, it doesn't matter if it's me. It's like, heck, you could work with any of our product-led coaches. You could go through our system and like you would get the same results. And so that's the piece where I'm like, it's kind of like giving a, I don't know, for guys, it's like a baby. It's like, okay, yeah, does it help you? Does that system work? So yeah, that's the biggest piece where I'm like, okay, can this exist without me? Because I think that's the true, story of like a successful founder. It's like you created something that works without you, versus like you just created a really high-powered job. It's like it's a different outcome.
And I suppose it's quite daunting and hard because you are the face of ProductLed,
Totally, yeah.
and your business and your brand and so on. I was talking to someone the other day that really hates that for themselves.
Yeah.
They're very active on social media and they have really high potential to be kind of like a, let's call it, have a founder brand led type of business, but they don't want that because they don't want the not being able to detach from that business and so on.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess that's, in a sense, that's the hardest bit when you build a business around, your own mugshot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we've tried like with different people on the team as well, like to create multiple different key people of influence as well. But it's definitely hard because it's like people have to resonate with that other person. They have to resemble sort of like the similar values of the company. They have to have like a unique point of view for themselves. Like when we had Ramley on our team as well, who wrote ProductLed onboarding, like that was something we generally try to do. It's like, okay, let's like, instead of just having like one person be like the face of the company, how could we have like 2 or eventually 3 kind of people? But long term, like they have to be in it for long term for it to really work. And so in this space, it's hard because it's like turnover and people are always jumping jobs and stuff like that too. So creating that long-term entity, it's like the founder is usually the best person. And then you think about like a lot of companies, it's like it really does have to be the founder, but that is like one of the biggest risks is like, okay, now that the company's sold or something, is the founder still vested? Are they still interested in some of these topics? And so yeah, I can see it working without me in that capacity, but it does lose some of its soul in that sense for the business if you like don't have that person to relate to the business as much.
Are you Canadian?
Yeah.
I just realized now when I heard you say without.
Without.
Yes. It was just a side note, side question. So you told me what your vision for your business is, to be able to scale without you involved. But what's your vision for yourself? Like, where is Wes Bush going as a professional, as an individual? What's the big picture here for you?
Yeah, for myself.
If you have one, because it's completely okay. I know people, and I am in that stage where I'm like, well, I know I want to have a bigger impact, but I have no idea what that means in 5 years from now.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's an interesting question because like, as soon as you said that, I immediately thought of like the business vision and like what is my kind of goal as part of that, and how I'm going to grow through that whole experience. And I think for me, like at this stage, like I'm just putting all the chips in the business kind of side. There is obviously like I prioritize like what my version of work-life balance is, even if it's like a bit skewed in the work kind of center. And so, yeah, like I think my vision for the future is really just having that like really kind of successful practice where it's like it can run absolutely without me. I can have that kind of like leadership team where it's like completely runs, it works better, even if I'm on vacation kind of thing. It consistently grows on its own. And then I think for the next kind of phase, I don't know if you've heard, I think Naval has like the 4 kind of kinds of leverage where there's like content is one form of like creating a lot of extra like leverage in your business. There's code, then there's like people, And I think the last one was like capital. So I think as you like mature as a entrepreneur, it's like thinking about the different levers of leverage. And it's like this business I have right now is really great at content as a form of leverage. And then it's like if we get that and we get really good at the people side, it's like well, there's still two others that we could really capitalize on to really kind of double down and scale this up and create more leverage overall for the companies. And so whether that's like adding capital into the mix or something like that for accelerating some of these product companies, or it's creating our own SaaS where it's like actually you can implement the system way faster in your own business. So
Right. So you see your future potentially working in the funding VC side of things and SaaS side of things, and kind of like creating these areas where you can also invest in some companies or help them with product, or both, or all three in the same time.
Yeah, because like one of the unique things that we'll have the media company that like is all about just product-led growth and everything, and then that feeds into our coaching company, which is people actually can implement our system. And like in that coaching company, I already can see this today, where it's like we know like 1 in 10 people are like crazy in that great sense. Like they're that driven founder, they implement everything, they just execute, and they see the best results. And so it's like every one of those 10 people that join, we want to have the support for like whether it's an advising company or portfolio of companies where we take a minority stake in those companies. And so that's kind of the third piece where I'm like, I'm not there yet as far as like skill sets of like how that would work, but that's where I see as like the biggest kind of opportunity to really compound our overall growth, because everything feeds into each other in that sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I have one last question before, well, actually afterwards, if you have anything that you want to ask me about my path or anything like that, feel free. If not,
Yeah.
you can do. At the end of your career, when you retire,
Yes.
what do you want people to know you for? I'm pretty sure, I'm confident that one would be the guy that created this movement around ProductLed. Is there anything else that you're aspiring to be known for at the end of your career?
Right. I think like the interim is really just like changing the way an entire industry sells. So like there's the traditional more sales-led way where it's like, okay, we're gonna like tell you what a product is about versus showing you. So yeah, I want to be able to say like, I think the phase one of this we're still in, which is like, okay, convince more people this is the right approach for your business. Phase two, in order for it to actually stick, is we have to make the product-led companies way more successful than the sales-led companies. So like on my LinkedIn, I'm like helping product-led companies beat sales-led companies. It's back to that competitiveness.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I want other companies to rep that, not just me.
Right. So do you have anything, any curiosities or anything that you want to ask me?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So tell me a bit about your kind of like company, how it all started.
So it's an interesting bit because, as I mentioned, I don't know if you paid attention or paid attention to me or took me serious when I was setting up the cameras.
Yeah.
But you did had your CXL course had a big impact to Nikki and I, my co-founder and I,
Awesome.
kickstarting our business, because
Wow.
I failed so many businesses before, and I keep on saying this. Probably people think I'm a broken robot here, saying the same thing every single podcast. But I failed. I started my first business when I was 17. I failed a variety of businesses. In the last 8 years before Jigsaw, I was doing SaaS.
Yeah.
Failed a bunch of those SaaS businesses, and then got a job. I wasn't confident in starting a new business.
Right.
Right. I just thought I'm not cut up for it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm a misfit, right? That's why I'm calling this a misfit
Yeah.
founders. Until I started bumping into certain things. And the reason why I bumped into your course, it was because I was trying to get better at how to position SaaS business
Right.
that we were about to start at the company that I was working for.
Yeah.
And taking your course, I started thinking, maybe this is this is the way to approach building and succeeding with a product business. Because the reason why I kept on failing was because I had zero understanding of marketing, product-led sales, any of this. So that really helped us because I felt I was a bit, I had the tools to start something like this. So that's when we started, that was one of the catalysts of, oh, this is possible. And the reason why we started was because Nikki and I wanted to build our own business. We, like yourself, we didn't want it to work for someone anymore. And we wanted to build our work on our own terms. And that was the catalyst. It was never about solving a problem. Nothing against people that that start knowing exactly what they want to solve as a challenge, but that wasn't us. We just wanted to work for ourselves, and then the idea came along. Like we started building apps for Atlassian Marketplace, Jira extensions, and apply. Now, product-led in a marketplace like Atlassian is a quasi-solution in a sense. You have to mix it with a lot of other things because you have this middle man, which is the marketplace, Atlassian. So there's a lot of things that in between that you don't have control over. It's not like you have your own product and you control every single stage of the funnel. There's a portion which is a black box in a sense. So we had to combine a lot of strategies along the way. But I think it was the product-led course initially, and then Dan Martell's Growth Accelerator. You said you've looked at, and Dan Martell was one of your mentors. Did you do the Growth Accelerator or the SaaS Academy or any of that?
No, courses? I hired him as a coach for that part.
Oh, really? Okay. The big bucks way.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question, but that's basically how we started. We wanted to build our own culture, work on our own terms, and it was, I don't know if you read Good to Great by Jim Collins, and he says, put the right people in the bus.
For sure.
And then set the direction. And I read that book before, and that stuck with me. I always wanted to have the kick-ass team.
Totally.
And what we build, well, if we have a kick-ass team, it doesn't matter what we build.
Yeah. Well, there's common stories like that. Like I know Loom, same thing. Hotjar, same thing. Like they all started with like a really great group of people, and they're like, okay, we have this list of ideas. We want to do a business together, and let's execute on like, try 3 or 4 of them, and then their first ideas usually bomb, and then they find something that like sticks, or they find something where it's like, oh, people are using this in a different way, and they're like, oh, that's why, and that's a better problem to solve. So yeah, I think like that focus on the problem is like the most underrated thing. And I was just reading Elon Musk's like recent biography, and like that was actually one of the things that I was like, it really clicked for me. I'm like, this guy just focused on like, what are the meaty problems? And I was like, I think a lot of times the V1 first time founder, or like, first couple of businesses is like, you focus on like, okay, I want to create like great business. And it's like, it's more like kind of, I don't know, me-centered or self-centered in that sense, where like, I want to like do this or accomplish this kind of outcome. And then when you do, you're like, well, what's the big problem to solve? Like, let's like level up the kind of big problems we solve. And I think that's the kind of natural.
I usually I have a ending ceremony. Which includes
ceremony.
Yes.
Which we sing Kumbaya or something.
Includes 3 flash questions.
All right.
And then you also get like a gift token.
Oh, nice.
For being part of the Misfit Founders guest clan.
So I guess I'm now a misfit.
Yes, you are. Yeah, although you're very confident and very determined, you're still a misfit. So, question number 1: what is a quote that you live by?
Oh, there's so many, man. If you know me, I actually have a list of quotes of like my absolute favorite ones. I think a very classic one is like, a good job is its own reward. Another good one is like, you get in life what you tolerate. I don't know, those are 2 good ones.
And next one, and you're not allowed to say your book. What is the book that changed your life professionally or personally? I know that your books are also a journey of discovery and learning and bettering your business and yourself. But aside from that, what's a really good book that impacted you?
I think really early on in my time, I remember reading this at Vidyard. It was called Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. And that book, it kind of like cued in about like 3 or 4 years before I even like was known around like a particular topic. I was studying that. And that was the first book where I was like, oh yeah, this is just like, that's kind of how it works. And so it got the wheels churning, so that I think by the time when there was that opportunity, I was like, I already know the next right thing. So yeah, that was a really great book.
And third and last question, what is a good habit that you advocate for?
Recently, waking up at 4 a.m. Yeah.
Waking before 4 a.m.?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a morning person.
Yeah.
But like, I've never been that crazy of a morning person. Like 6 a.m. was my go-to. And then I started doing this, and I just got so much more done. Like I wrote like about 80% of my book in like a month when I like use this habit. So it was just like, you can do so much more. I was like,
Are you not tired? What time do you go to bed?
8.
Oh, okay. Figures. Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, it really like gives you less time in the evening for sure. It's a big sacrifice, and like you got to say no to a lot of things, like even socially, where it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds great, but no, bedtime. They're like 8? You crazy? Like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate because at my peak with training, going to the gym, having a very structured life, I was waking up at 5:30.
Yeah.
And by 10, I was dead.
Yeah, but I think when it, like I love working out as well, and like one of the things I found is like, how do you integrate workouts to have a better work day? And so usually I would like work out in the morning because I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of hard, get it out of the way, the hardest thing. And I'm like, no, let's work till like I'm brain fried. And then when I'm brain fried, I'm like, let's work out, because what I learned is like when you're brain fried, your mental energy is low. Physical energy hasn't been touched. So it's like you just need to switch your energy states, go from mental to physical energy. And when you do that, it actually resets both of them.
Interesting.
So it's like whenever you're stuck in one thing, you're like, oh, I feel like, I need work there. It's like switch up the energy state.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always trained the morning because I do feel like my training requires a lot of mental focus as well, and not being fatigued. But maybe I'll give it another try.
Yeah, man.
Training in the evening.
I love habits. That's a good question.
Right. So let me give you your gift. I give this coin to every single founder guest that comes by, and it's
fancy.
I'm a Misfit coin. It has the number that you have been a guest, so 12. You're the 12th guest.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then on the other side, you have the Misfit Founders logo, and it's also a kickstand, so you can put it in your whatever background.
Ever felt so proud to be called a misfit?
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man.
No worries.
This is great.
Awesome, and thank you so much for doing this. I know you're probably super busy at SaaS Talk.
No, thanks for having me, man. This has been a blast chatting.
Awesome, thank you.